Welcome, everyone. This is a fall meeting, part of the fall series of meetings for the Baltimore Casino Local Development Council and planning for the fiscal year 25 budget spending plan for the Casino Local Impact Grant Fund or Casino Local Impact Fund Program, or CLIF. You'll see that acronym in our correspondence with you and in the presentation. We're going to, so we'll do quick introductions. We'll highlight what the process is that we're in, both for LDC members and also for agencies who are probably looking. This may be a little early in thinking about your budgets for next year, but we'll talk about how the process has come together. We were then planning to do quick sort of kind of speed dating presentations of each of the agency projects, and then questions and answer, Q&A dialogue with the LDC members present. And then for the LDC members, we'll sort of recap where we are, next steps in their process. So next slide. For introductions, I'm Ethan Cohen, formerly with the mayor's office. Some of you may have I've worked with many of you in that capacity. And then since July, I had the exciting privilege to join the Department of Planning for the city. And this CLIF program that I referred to, that is now being administered through the Department of Planning. And we talked in prior meetings about some of the strategy behind that, but I won't go into that here. And Chris, why don't you introduce yourself and
again, Chris Firehawk, been with the city now for about a little over a year and 3 months or so. Before that, I served on the LDC as a community member from the Ridgely's Delight and Berry Circle communities. And excited to hear everything about your projects tonight.
Yeah, great. How about Mr. Alston? Why don't you introduce yourself and see if anyone else when they join on from the LDC.
Yeah, sure. I'm James Alston, longtime LDC member, community activist, and leader here in the Westport community.
Thank you. So for the agencies, so since there are a lot of us, we'll just jump into that and we'll introduce you, or you introduce yourselves as we get to your projects. So next slide. Okay, next. So this is really more for us internally with the LDC, but we started, it was kind of a reboot for this program as Chris and I moved into planning. And again, some of the agencies may be have worked over the years on funding with the Pimlico Community Development Authority process. So we've been working with the staff that works with that body to try to align the two. Where we are now is the third section here. This is a work session on the fiscal year 25 spending plan. We call it a spending plan because it's just a little bit more than a budget. But in terms of the city's budget process, the spending, the CLIF budget gets baked into, it's a fair amount of money. It's about $8 million, but it is a relatively small amount of the city's overall budget, but it is included and ultimately adopted within the city's budget, which happens over the course of the spring, and May and June is finalized by the city council and passed as the ordinance of estimate. So our people often ask, well, how this integrates with the city's budget process. We have our own budget process required by the state laws around this funding. It requires working with the local development council, which is an advisory group appointed by the mayor, with some specific representation from community residents, also institutions or businesses within the communities around the casino. That's the area designated as the casino impact area, or what we've called over the last 8 years the South Baltimore Gateway. Also represented on the council are 2 state delegates, and it's chaired by Senate President Bill Ferguson. So it's the senator for the area, for the district that houses the casino in Baltimore. So we presented the budget about 3 weeks ago. This was intended as a work session for LDC members that had questions, as many of them did, or said they did, but had questions for all of you as the grantees. And then we will come back together with them in about 3 weeks and sort of get their final thumbs up, thumbs down on the recommendations, which is then an advisory feedback on the budget to the city and the administration for incorporating that into the final city budget. So next. So if you, yeah, this is probably more familiar. Well, this is something we're working on, and with all of you representing various grantee agencies, Chris has been starting to flesh these out with you. And this project information form or worksheet that we've been starting to develop, the idea is that it's kind of an iterative, collaborative process with you, but it's in response to requests from members of the LDC for kind of better communication and clarity around what the intended use and outcomes are of for the grant funded work. So in here, we're going to try to establish some metrics for, what did we call them? Goals and achievable outcomes. And then also looking at the schedule, both for the current year where the funding may have already been allocated, catching up on that, backfilling some information around the current year, and then really seeing FY24, the year we're in, as a sort of runway for planning and defining these outcomes and timelines for FY25. Next. So this brings us to our speed dating session, our run through of agencies. So run through of agency projects. So we've organized the budget over the years in different ways for LDC members or others that saw it. We often were organizing it by strategic goals of the South Baltimore Gateway Master Plan. But this year this lends itself better for this format of working with all of you as the agency reps. The budget is organized here by the names of the city agencies that oversee the funds. So some of you here represent grantees or companies that are contracted with the city, but your contracts are always with a city agency. And this is the list of those agencies. So we'll take there's some individual line items we'll get to under each agency. And we're also wanted to share the information the way it's presented here, the financial information, kind of as a look back. Before we look forward to FY25, we wanted to give the context of the year we're in, FY24, and then also like the year we just finished for FY23, which finished June 30th. And as we get into it, you could see the amounts are rather inconsistent because we had a fair amount of funding that had built up, and we are currently working on allocating through a supplemental budget appropriation for FY24. And some of those amounts, which are significantly larger in FY23, was because projects were just getting off the ground in FY23. We were still coming off of COVID with some of our contracts and staffing, and leftover funds unspent for those projects gets rolled forward, carried forward into the FY24 supplemental budget. Next. So this kicks us off because we're going alphabetically by agency, starting with the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. And so 2 initiatives here. I don't know if we have anyone from MOCFS here, but there are 2 initiatives here. I'm going to start with the second one. It's been an annual appropriation for Associated Catholic Charities, who is the provider of Head Start services in this part of the city. And for several years now, with a pause, both because of programs were shut down and then there was other funding available, the Catholic Charities has provided summer programming for Head Start eligible children and their families. And we restarted that this past year, summer 2023, which is fiscal year 24. And it's our plan to continue that. The first line there of educational partnerships is a bit of a placeholder that used to fund a collaboration with a citywide nonprofit called Reading Partners. During COVID, that was wound down where they had some other funding. So this is actually still a placeholder for working with the LDC and Office of Children and Family Success for perhaps developing a new portfolio of grants for tutoring programs or other enrichment programs that serve schools in South Baltimore.
I see Noel from MOCFS is here. Noel,
Yeah.
Did you have any update on any of the programs specifically that you might be looking at for FY24 and FY25?
Thank you. Please introduce yourself. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to see who's here and read the screen and talk at the same time. So thank you.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. Sorry, everyone. I'm in transit. Good evening. My name is Noelle Lugay. I am the Chief of Policy and Partnerships for the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. Ethan and Chris have been great with just supporting and kind of helping me understand and lift this portfolio, as I think I'm at my 18-month mark here at the city. However, Ethan, pretty much what you were saying is very much true, and obviously you kind of lifted the important parts. What is the goal and what is most important to me in this role is to ensure that there is synergy and that there is need around what it is that we actually support and fund with these dollars as it comes around to South Baltimore in that particular area and those communities of need. So at the time that we engage with our city schools partners around the need around that particular reading partner, what we all know was that schools, especially Baltimore City Public Schools, received millions of dollars around doing that to close the gap with that during the time of COVID to help do recovery and learning loss. So we did not see a need, and I didn't see a need to duplicate efforts and give money, and they felt very adamant about that as well around giving the same money to a partner to do the same sort of things that they've received a very specific bucket of millions of dollars to do. So for the upcoming year, I've been looking at really serving again to sort of see what it is that the community needs in that area as it comes to educational partnerships, and maybe identifying some more maybe targeted or more focused niche opportunities as it relates to that community. As we know that there's no longer a specific high school in that community, and there've been some resources and things sort of lost there. So getting kind of feedback around that and identifying something that will work and for that community as far as educational partnerships will go is where I'm sort of trying to get alignment with, because I don't feel like anyone knows it better except for the people that really live it. So that's sort of where I'm landing, but it will be in the vein of supporting educational enrichment and definitely identifying the needs of the community and the youth that are in that particular zone.
All right, great. We look forward to working with you to find new ideas. Right. Any questions, James, or anyone else for that matter? No, I guess Noel will cut you loose, or you can stick around and listen.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Okay. The Mayor's Office of Employment Development. 3 initiatives. Really, the first 2 go together. Really, and again, for the purpose of the budget for FY25, the the focus would be on the third column of numbers there. But I really appreciate Chris setting it up this way where we can sort of look at the aggregate over the 3-year period. I'll just read it. The South Baltimore Employment Connection Center provides computer literacy training, referrals to adult literacy services, job readiness workshops, resume and interview preparation, and occupational skills training to job seekers. We also provide referrals to other supportive services, simultaneously engage with employers. So the other side of the match of workers and jobs. So we engage with employers to understand their employment needs and connect residents with these opportunities. The ECC conducts regular outreach to job seekers and businesses within the casino impact area. In FY23, we began a marketing campaign focused on driving traffic to the center. Campaign included a billboard and a series of 30 ads placed on MTA buses, as well as 5,000 postcards mailed directly to South Baltimore residents. We provide on-site and off-site job recruitment events and hold weekly job club sessions for customers. The South Baltimore ECC staff also work to develop additional job pathways for residents by engaging with the South Baltimore business community. Next, I'll just run through this and then turn it over to questions and the agency reps. So I'll turn it over to the staff who can introduce themselves in a second, but they have provided a detailed budget for the year. Now, this is the bottom line here. We should probably the budget for the Employment Connection Center, we would take out the $300,000 for YouthWorks. So it's, roughly $600,000 operating, plus some funding for, sort of set asides for training and for the rideshare pilot. Next. Thoughts. So this is the Office of Employment Development's response about goals, sort of targeted milestones for FY25. And some of this is, obviously ongoing. This program has been in place since 2015. It was one of the first programs launched with the Casino Impact funding. So marketing campaign, hiring events, community outreach, rideshare contracting, hiring, ongoing outreach. They can speak to these acronyms, ITAs or individual training accounts. And then okay. Is this the last slide for? Go ahead, Chris.
Before the questions, yeah. So
yeah.
Again, these two things are ripped right from the project information sheet. And so you'll see differing versions of this for the different line items, just because this is something we've been implementing very recently, sending out to them very recently. So Mark and his team were able to get this filled out. So that is Mark, if you want to,
Chris, I was gonna suggest, if you like, Mark can speak directly to some of these targets. Good evening, everyone. I'm Craig Lewis. I'm the Assistant Director, Chief of Adult Services with MOED, and Mark is the Workforce Manager. And I'll have Mark introduce himself, and he can walk through some of these targets and give a bit more details.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to the LDC meeting. My name is Mark Hooper. I am the Workforce Manager for the South Baltimore Employment Connection Center. I've been with MOED for 20 years. I've been in actually this particular position going on 2 years. So I wanted to go over a little bit of what Chris and Ethan said, and thank you guys for inviting me again. We just came off a 17-week marketing campaign where Chris and Ethan talked about our billboards, mailers. We just finished in September. That marketing went very well. The billboards, the social media campaign, the marketing was all targeted in the South Baltimore footprint. We have a rideshare program specific for our customers who are enrolled in training. This particular rideshare program will be in the casino and catchment area in South Baltimore. All of our individuals who are actually in training, this rideshare through CLIF will be free of charge to them. Some of the performance targets, 450 customers will enroll in ECC this year. Again, we are making sure that we target these customers, making sure our foot traffic is increased by our marketing campaign, our rideshare campaign, as well as our outreaches. We do weekly job clubs where our business service rep, which is a job developer, he actually invites 1 to 2 employers to our center every week to match their needs to the employer's skills and interests, and we hire individuals on site. Let's see, the second one, 12 customers placed in training. I believe Chris went over some of the training budget, which I believe was 300,000. No, I'm sorry, 30,000 for FY24. Last couple of years, it was actually 55,000, but we offsetted some of the money to use for the ride share to increase traffic and to get our customers actually to and from these training facilities. We also provide a number of job readiness and training and employment opportunities. We are always out and about in the communities. We just had a major marketing or job fair with Home Chef, where we had 80 individuals come out with 70 conditional hires. I'm still trying to figure out who's going to actually get hired once the backgrounds come through, and then what zip codes the customers are coming out of. And again, we 245 customers placed in employment. We exceed that goal every year.
Terrific. Thanks, Mark. So we had some LDC questions, and I think that they were shared with Mark and Craig. So is this a good time to just recap them? And also that LDC member, Mr. Alston, is here. So Chris, is this a good time to look at this slide, or?
This is perfect.
Okay. I could speak to the first one. So the budget that was shown. So obviously this is not all of MOED's budget, but I assume the question was about the MOED sponsored South Baltimore Employment Connection Center. This program has been the dedicated budget for this program is fully funded out of the LDC Casino Local Impact Funding Program. That said, I am sure Craig and his supervisors would say that there are other resources brought to bear by MOED. So the direct cost for the rent, the staff at this program, I'm pretty sure are all charged to this account. I don't think Craig's salary is on here. So again, while I believe there is some administrative costs there, the idea of the Employment Connection Center being in South Baltimore is a satellite of all the programs available citywide, but sort of bringing them in a more boutique way, in a more localized way for the residents and businesses of South Baltimore. Is that accurate, Craig?
That is correct. And I would say, that line item that you see, indirect costs, that 58,000, it goes towards supporting HR, fiscal, IT, and some of our performance team, supporting Mark and his team to operate the center in an efficient way. This represents a very, very small amount of our total operating budget. It's widely known that we received $30 million in ARPA funds. And with those funds, we bring to bear a number of training opportunities, of which the ECC connects residents to our rideshare program, which is Let's Ride to Work for individuals who receive employment within the city. They can get up to 40 free rides to get back and forth to work. Our financial empowerment, where residents learn about debt reduction, savings, and there's a myriad of other resources and services, as well as some of our federal dollars that Mark and his team have the ability to tap into. And that's our individual training accounts, where for folks that visit the center and want a broader menu of training options, they can tap into those resources. And so this budget is a very small, minute percentage of the overall MOED operate. And I would also add, and as you can see here, this is essentially to keep the lights on and for personnel. And Mark can go over the personnel that we staff at the ECC.
So other questions that were raised, I don't know if we have that data tonight, how many residents within Westport have been placed in permanent jobs over these years. I think we talked about the salary. I mean, we could get the multi-year, but the bulk of the expense for the center, which is really intended as a gateway into the citywide resources of MOED, the bulk of that annual budget does go to salary, staff salary. Yeah, the remaining questions are about, maybe Mark, you could speak to the staffing. If you have any data or can follow up with any data on residents of Westport, and then the staffing model.
We do have, yes, Ethan, Mark is prepared to answer that question around the number of residents served in Westport, as well as the number placed.
Awesome. So like I started out with, we exceed goal as far as our placement numbers. We always exceed 240 placements per year. Now our actual placements in Westport, so I had to break it down in by zip code. Now this is a under represented count, but I did one for FY23 and FY22. The FY23 for our customers in the 21230 was an average of 10 placements with a rate of $16.35. FY22 was 8 placements with a targeted wage of $18.44. Now, again, this is underrepresented, meaning that this is not the overall number of of customers in that zip code and in Westport that were employed based off of our job fairs, resource fairs, et cetera, over the past couple of years. Some of our customers we have lost track with as far as follow-up because of phone number changes, customers moved, et cetera. However, some of the things that I talked about earlier, as far as our marketing campaign, actually going out doing more events in the Westport community. I've been working with Westport Academy. The principal, I believe her name is Melody Locke, along with Lisa Hodges, the executive director at Westport Community, to hopefully increase foot traffic in the Westport area. You know, I welcome any suggestions or strategies that you may have, but I have been working with the Westport community to try to increase our placement numbers, service numbers in the Westport footprint.
Could you speak to the staffing, staffing structure?
So right now I have seven positions. Workforce manager, which is my title. I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations of the SBCC. I have 2 case managers. They're called career development facilitators. That's what OED calls them. Some of their duties, but not limited to, assist customers in developing an employment and development plan that modifies plans and circumstances. Case managers also assist the customers achieve performance goals regarding their employment, retention, completion, placements. They also conduct outreach. I have one vacant CDF position. One of the other CDF positions is filled. I have 2 OA positions. One is an intake specialist. Her duties include, but not limited to, provide clerical support to department, agency as assigned, receives and screens incoming calls, direct them to appropriate departments. She also assists my case managers with job readiness and life skills workshops to provide to customers to make sure they are more job ready. My business service rep, I'm sorry, let me go back to the other OA. I have another OA, the senior office assistant. Some of her duties include, but not limited to, she provides clerical support to the department and creates and proofreads letters, memorandums, reports, documents, and other materials. I have one business service rep, which is also a job developer in so many terms. He demonstrates ability, or that position demonstrates abilities to obtain labor market information. My BSR, his name is Bill Carnes. He actually goes out and makes sure he obtains labor market information. He makes sure that he looks at industries that's on a rise, that's growing, and make sure that he also targets new businesses and employers, specifically in the South Baltimore footprint. And lastly, I have a technical trainer. This particular person, he trains students on computer fundamentals, studies and identifies the training needs of citizens and agency employees, and he investigates training options available, assists the students in using the internet for employment and computer literacy.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hooper, if I could just interject for a
Sure.
minute. How many employees did you just describe in total?
7.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. So Mark, James Alston, who was just speaking, asked that you put your contact info in the chat, or
Oh,
if
sure.
you would, or we can also connect you offline via email.
Sure.
Great. Are we okay to move on? I think we have about 3 minutes with Mr. Booker from DHCD, but we could also come back to. That work?
Can we move on?
Yeah.
Everyone good?
Okay.
All right, fantastic.
Thank you, Mark and Craig.
We're gonna skip ahead some to get to Mr. Booker's talk about code enforcement.
Yeah.
We thank him for being here on his on vacation.
Yeah.
Still hanging out with us, so thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, so what did you all want me to address with respect to code enforcement?
Yeah, so I think what we'd like to do here is, in respect to your time, if you could just talk a little bit about the extra code enforcement officer that we're bringing to bear, and a little bit about when they will be on the street, what type of work they'll be doing, and how the community can know to put info in for them. And then we'll have, since David McGinnis is here, we'll have him talk about the cameras and let you get on out of here. Fantastic, thanks.
All right, thank you all. Eric Booker, Deputy Commissioner for DHCD Inspections and Emergency Operations. What this budget has allowed is the funding of an additional dedicated inspector that will be a part of my team. The body should know that this inspector has to come through our training, because the work that they will be entering into the system will be legitimate work. It's not one-off, it's a part of a whole code enforcement system. So they have to come through a training. which is usually a 6-month training. I'm going to try to see how I can modify the training to get this this person on the ground quicker. The benefit of having a dedicated inspector is that most of my inspectors, or all of my inspectors, have territories. And that some of them have 2 territories across the city that are adjacent to each other. And they respond to over 65,000 service requests a year. And at any time, I can move them around to where there is a need, a respective need within the city. So this project has a dedicated inspector for your purposes only, which is all of those items that fall within the building fire and related codes of Baltimore City. They will in fact be looking or responding to service requests that fall within the footprint. They'll do some proactive inspections as they're inspecting those service requests. So they will do everything that our inspectors do. Fundamentals of what we do is observe and document. I want to be perfectly clear. We don't clean, we don't board, we don't cut grass. We observe, we document, we refer. So I like to consider our folks the forward observers for the city to make certain that stuff that needs to be in the system for other agencies to act is in fact in the system. I am very happy to say that we respond to service requests on average 3 days. And those 3 days includes 2 days on the weekend of which we don't work. So I like to say that we respond to service requests on a daily basis, or at least within a 24-hour period. So that person will be dedicated to the actions within the South Baltimore Gateway footprint. We just have to make certain that our system is aligned so that it is in fact dedicated. We'll make certain, my superintendents, assistant superintendents will make certain that those things that come from this footprint fall in that inspector's bucket as you all are in fact paying for it. So I don't want to take advantage of that and send them up to Northwest Baltimore. Fair enough?
A question, Eric, is there an opportunity for proactive, community that maybe is not fully empowered or activated on submitting SR requests for violations? Do any of the inspectors have the opportunity, perhaps with a call from a community representative, to head out, look at an area first rather than I guess in a more proactive way than responsive way?
Yeah. So let me add that. Thank you for that. They are all proactive. When they are out in the field and responding to service requests, those are the things that call an inspector to the field is an existing open notice. They have to re-inspect those and 311 requests that come from the citizens. But while they're in their footprint, they are proactively looking for things that may be a violation of the building fire related codes of Baltimore City. So a phone call saying, hey, I drove past XYZ space last night. Could you, while you're in the street tomorrow, could you put eyes on this area? That's not an issue because they're going to be in the territory anyway. And I like them to always think that if they're smart, the citizens will be an extension of them and point them in a direction, as opposed to them having to always go and hunt and look for it. So we always have a Miss Lucy or somebody that's on the block that'll keep them informed when they see something that's not right and pull them into that direction because there's a concern of the citizen. So that's not a problem. They will be proactive. They won't be solely reactive. When they go out on reactive stuff, they should zone everything within that area for like violations. And when they don't have a full load of service requests, they should be proactively engaging those things that we have open notices on that need to be closed out and abated. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you much.
Okay, I'm gonna shoot. I hate to leave y'all like this, but I'm going to dinner.
Okay, enjoy your time off.
All right, take care.
But James, we can certainly record your question if we can't answer it in the moment.
No worries. I'll send it to you offline.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Chris, this is a complicated or a complex board. Do you want to guide us through other representatives? Maybe, I guess, go in reverse order to the other aspect of code enforcement, and then we can finish with the community development fund.
Yep, you read my mind. So you don't see it too clearly in FY25, but in FY24, the supplemental, we put in some extra money to purchase extra anti-dumping cameras. And here to talk about that is Mr. David McGinnis, who is the dumping camera guru.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, my name is Dave McGinnis. I'm Chief of the Special Investigations Unit for Department of Housing and Community Development. SIU, we're responsible for all illegal dumping enforcement in the city. My staff of currently 9 responds to approximately 13,000 requests per year for illegal dumping. The investigators will respond out to a location. They'll conduct a physical search of the debris, looking for any kind of identifying material in order to issue any appropriate notices and citations. Currently, we also maintain approximately 90 cameras throughout the city. SIU investigators are fully sworn through Baltimore Police Department as special enforcement officers. If we do capture a dumping on camera, we will swear out criminal charges against the person, which can lead to fines and jail time through Baltimore City District Court. To really look at cameras at specific locations. I know we've done this with Westport CDC. Want to talk to the other community organizations to kind of see what their hotspot areas are, because depending on what we're looking at is, what kind of camera system we're looking at. So I do see we have some carryover from this fiscal year. We utilize right now cameras produced by a company called Reconics. So they are more like trail cameras, like hunting cameras. So they're battery powered, motion activated, record video and photos. We've just purchased some new Reconics cameras that are actually outfitted with license plate reader technology. So the early returns on those have been good. So just depending on the location where the dumping concern is whether we need to, what kind of defense do we need to set up to monitor it. A camera is a great tool. It's not a be all end all. A lot of it is education. The Reconics being motion activated, they get battery powered, they have memory cards, so they're limited on where we can post them. So I'm excited about this program because if we do have higher traffic areas, we do have some funding available where we can actually look at some hardwired camera options or solar powered camera options that are going to be, have better resolution and honestly just posted too high to steal. We do have a couple cameras stolen every quarter. They're hidden, they're secured, but what's the saying? A lock only keeps an honest person out. So so that's it. So we would want to talk to the different grantees, to the different community associations, and really get an idea of what areas are their major concern. And at that point, we can do our assessment and design a system that would benefit the community and try to cut down on illegal dumping.
Great. So we're working with David and his team and community groups like Westport CDC but we'll be reaching out to others to develop that strategy. And the good thing is then, if problems get addressed in certain areas, we'll have the assets, we'll have the cameras, and can be moving them around to respond.
Yes,
to needs.
most of the systems, even the hardwired systems I'm looking at, are fully movable. So they're hardwired in, but as long as we have an electrical connection and a meter, we can pretty much move them as we need. And they, can probably, as long as we have a bucket truck, we could probably, take it down and set it up in, probably 30, 40 minutes. So some of these newer systems, again, it's just a matter of for hardwire, getting the electrical connection. We have just recently partnered with Department of Transportation because we've had some dumping areas where we don't have a good mounting point for a camera, and DOT has actually put in a couple poles for us. So they're just the metal light poles, but they're not There's no electric running to them. They just they'll put them where we need it so we can angle it to really monitor the area.
Great. Well, we're going to follow up with you to sort of develop that timeline. What information you need, when sort of, what it would take to deploy first round of these. Funding is available in the current year, so we want to get this sort of in place before the end of the fiscal year.
Awesome. Just my question for you guys, would this, for the camera systems, does it have to be something that's currently on a city contract, or they don't have to be in Workday, or? That is my question because of the funding source.
Just as long as you want to do the paperwork, you can get which ones you want. Go through normal procurement, and we're happy to listen to your recommendations.
Okay, outstanding.
Okay.
Any questions for me?
Thank you for your service.
All right, thank you all. Have a good one. Oh, I guess I'll stay on in case any other questions pop up.
Thank you. Chris, you want to talk about Community Development Fund? We don't really have any reps from that part of DHCD.
Yep. And if I break out in coughing fit, we'll just move on. So for FY25, the main identified item for Community Development Fund, which is $200,000 allocated, will be paying for second year of the Middle Neighborhood Strategy, which is being run by Healthy Homes.
Healthy Neighborhoods.
Healthy Neighborhoods, sorry, Healthy Neighborhoods Incorporated, for Cherry Hill and Lakeland. And then the remainder will be used for projects in consultation with community leaders, the Gateway Partnership, who has their own fund, and DHCD staff. And one reason that's not a very large number is that we're putting in about $1 million in FY24, and it's likely that not all of that is going to get spent in FY24. So between FY24 and FY25, maybe into FY26, we're going to end up somewhere around $1.5 million total between the Community Development Fund and the code enforcement as well.
Right. Great, and I'll just add to that, and then we should probably move on, but this is coordinated with the Community Development Fund launched by South Baltimore Gateway Partnership. So we'll be, Chris and Neil Friedlander from there are going to be working together on the project selection and process and trying to figure out which projects might be a better fit for the city's funding versus South Baltimore Gateway, and then also coordinated with these approaches around code enforcement, addressing vacants, directing people towards existing city incentive programs for legacy homeowners as well as for new home buyers, as more single family homes come online through the city's anti-vacancy strategy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other? This is the middle neighborhood. Oops, sorry. Here's the middle neighborhoods budget for the 3 years, just listing the organizers, block projects training, and then the admin fee on top. Like MOED, they are benefiting from a lot of ARPA funding, which is going. The admin should be much higher. Like the lead organizer is being paid out of ARPA. We don't have to pay for the supervision. And some of the other costs are being funded by ARPA, so we're able to sort of tag on in at a lesser rate, if you will. And so again, they're going to recruit, hire, train, and supervise the community coordinator to do organizing, like Ethan said, making sure everyone understands all the incentive programs that they're eligible for, so on and so forth. Does anyone have any questions about middle neighborhoods? Okay, fantastic. Now we did skip so we could get
Yeah.
get Mr. Booker out the door. We did skip the fantastic and awesome Mayor's Office of Homeless Services. And let's see, do we have, oh yes, Mr. Roland Selby is here, as well as Miss Jessie Stevens. So for, pardon me, this year we have $150,000 allotted for them. And I'm gonna let Roland and or Jesse speak, since I can't really speak right now. So if you all want to talk a little bit about what's been going on, that would be fantastic.
So good evening, everyone. This is Roland Selby, the Chief of Staff with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services. And I'm joined by Jessie Stevens, our manager for our outreach team, and she's going to walk us through an overview of our program. Jessie?
Good evening. I'm Jessie Stevens. I've been here with Baltimore City's Homeless Services Program for about 5 years. In that time, we've definitely been gracious enough to receive funding from this community to support 2 outreach workers on our team who provide services to the homeless individuals in District 10 and 11, I believe.
Yeah, parts of both.
Yes. Specifically, our team members are out Monday through Friday, and during the winter season, also on the weekends during code blue time, to provide services and connect individuals to shelter, those who are living on the streets or in places not meant for habitation. That often includes people living in vehicles or abandoned houses. And in those circumstances, we would also work with DOT and DHCD to provide services. Most recently, our teams have also been a part of encampment resolutions. Very recent, within the past, I think 2 weeks, we just resolved several sites on the MLK corridor that stretch into the community. And I think most of you have probably seen a difference in the past week of those sites. And as well, our teams are working with Demo USA, who is providing some cleaning services to the waterways in your districts. And our teams are working with Demo USA to ensure that our homeless community is not affected by those cleanups, but that we're also providing services when they are locating individuals in places that we may not have seen. So this funding that we're asking for to support this work is very crucial, as I can use as many individuals as possible to provide service. On a nightly basis, there may be 2,500 individuals across Baltimore City experiencing homelessness, and those are just the 2,500 that we are able to count or who are identifying as homeless. Often it takes a long time for us to make relationships so that they trust us to be able to get them connected to service. And it's important for us to have workers that are dedicated to districts to be able to form those relationships. I think I might have touched everything. Not sure if anyone has any questions.
I wonder if anyone considered or know about, because I'm not in the habit of sort of demonizing the homeless population, have ever researched tiny houses?
Yes, not only have we researched it, there's actually a project in Baltimore City called Red Shed Village that I have another set of team members who are helping support individuals through that process there, where they are living in some tiny homes and connect to our coordinated access point, which is how we get individuals housed permanently. From a citywide standpoint, I'm not sure if they have looked further into that, but I know that we do technically partner with Red Shed Village to provide services for individuals living there.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jesse, this is a bit of a numbers question, but and there's no right answer, but we were trying to interpret the reporting we got from MOHS. Is there, with the outreach, the dedicated outreach workers for this casino impact area, is that in addition to one for each of the council districts, which we know are much larger?
Yeah, so I think what we're asking for is additional funding specific for your district to add 2 more.
Okay, so those 2 people would overlap with the district coordinator, district outreach worker for the 10th district overall and 11th district overall?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Thank you for all the work you do.
Welcome.
And
Thank you.
any other questions? I mean, and if there aren't more questions for Jesse and
Roland.
Mr. Selby, for our new welcome. Welcome to the new leadership team, by the way, at MOHS. And we also have Mark Ceresi and his team, who is the head of Demo USA, is actually contracted through Department of Public Works, Solid Waste Division. But Mark is here on my screen. He's next to Jesse, so they're like arm in arm there. But Demo USA, through the contract for solid waste, is coordinating with Jesse's team, going out to clean encampments on a regular basis, and always done. The way I understand it is that's done in partnership with the outreach workers, so that there's a sort of coordinated handoff of, or that the cleaning is done in coordination with the outreach work, so that there is a sort of social work component when people come into their space to clean.
Yes, it's to protect all parties involved. 1, the cleaning has to be done, but then 2, we want to make sure that individuals who are there, or that we aren't impeding on their space, that they understand what is happening around them, that we're giving them an opportunity to dispose of any items, and then using that as a bridge to, get them into service or help them transition into stable housing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's good to at least be able to have a place for them to be able to put trash, and then just have a cleanup in general, where oftentimes we may not be able to get back there on our own, or as it looks, I believe DPW's team may not be able to get back there. So with Demo USA is just another avenue for us to provide, a service to our homeless, but really to the entire community.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to introduce myself. I am Mark Ceresi. I am the CEO of the Ceresi Group, and one of our companies is Demo USA, and in particular the Environmental Services Division. And I would like to thank Ethan Cohen and Chris and Mark. I haven't met you. I've worked with Jesse, and I think I speak correctly that Jesse and I are working on doing an inventory of the homeless camps, creating a definition of what a homeless camp is, what a homeless home is, and setting out a plan of action to go into these areas which are not readily seen from the streets by any means, and doing our very best to provide a cleanup and an environment. It's quite a soulful effort on our part, and as a corporation, we feel we are giving back to the community. And it feels good to do that. I applaud Jesse's thoughtfulness and the city's thoughtfulness about going in and attending to these folks that are so often overlooked. Our work entails removing a lot of garbage, items that are dangerous and can cause injury. We hope that providing them a cleaner environment, that they don't feel so marginalized and feel more respected and cared for by the city of Baltimore. We have some work to do, and that's probably putting it mildly. I'd like to think that we give them dignity. I think I speak for Jesse that there'll become a program whereby containers are available, so that if they're so inclined they may want to find themselves cleaning up their own environments. In addition to cleaning up the homeless camps, on behalf of the mayor's office, we also remediate the shoreline of scrap tires, needles, and garbage, keeping that whole casino corridor much better looking. There's a lot of good pragmatic efforts that come out of our work. Appearance can lift the spirits of these folks and the city of Baltimore altogether. And we are honored to be of service and look forward to continuing to contribute in this very meaningful way. And for what it's worth, I think I could probably speak for Mark and Jesse that we are open to many ideas as to how to better care for the homeless and clean up these environments. So that's who we are, and that's what we do. I do want to thank BG&E for giving us certain areas to set up our camp, and Michael Lucas from the Department of Public Works. He's been very supportive in our efforts to maintain greater order on the shoreline and throughout the community.
Great, thank you, Mark. We'll probably come back to you when we get into the waterside cleaning, but thank you. And I wanted to say I really appreciate the way you framed it, Jesse, that this, the work that is being done on the cleaning presents a positive interaction potentially with unhoused individuals that they're not always getting. We're providing them a service that may be a gateway to them being more receptive to taking services and the other programmatic
I would say
offerings that you're giving.
I would like to think that us showing up on site, being escorted by Jesse's people, kind of breaks down a barrier and perhaps can create trust, so that if they need medical attention or mental attention, any and all the above, that there's more of a trust imbued.
Great. Terrific.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
Chris.
Ethan.
No, probably same thought. If there are no further questions on homeless services, we will move on to the next agency. Thank you. And Mark, if you want to stick around, we'll come back to Mr. Lucas and you on the waterside work.
Sure.
Okay. We won't be long.
I had a snack before this, so I'm fine.
Yeah. Great, thank you. So the next one on here is we've got to correct the name. The Mayor's Office of Information Technology is now the Baltimore City Office of Information Technology. So you might see BSID elsewhere. Is that the one we're on? Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, James and others, you've heard about our work with City Watch over the years. The bulk of the funding over this 3-year cycle has been about expanding. It's been a multi-year effort, slowly, but gradually expanding City Watch coverage in targeted areas within the South Baltimore Gateway. And so what we see there in FY24 in the supplemental, sort of a more significant amount of funding is the carry forward. That's the balance of funds pledged to projects over the last couple of years. This probably could have been handled as a capital project because it does take, or it has taken time to build out these projects. So we see that sort of stepping down in fiscal year 25. Not a lot more currently allocated to City Watch projects after the current funding is spent down, and I'll speak to that in a second. But really, the goal would be to try to use casino funding and leverage relationships and other funding that's already in the city for other sorts of community broadband work. So my sort of FY24 notes speak to this. The supplemental budget represents carry forward for continuing CCTV, the camera projects planned in Westport, what we call the Stadium District project, which is was just a name for kind of a area of cameras between Sharp Leadenhall, Federal Hill Main Street, or their commercial area in Otterbein, and then around Federal Hill Park. The Westport project, as a sort of leading edge here, will include fiber connections, investments in fiber connections for collaborations on in-home broadband for residents of Westport homes. This has been a long-held goal with the expanding the communications fiber needed to run the City Watch cameras, but there have been obstacles to using the city's communications network for broadband that have now in the last year been overcome. So that our hope is this funding and other ARPA and other state funding that's available in the city can now use some of this infrastructure for other broadband, community broadband efforts now being explored by the Baltimore City IT and their digital equity team. And that will leverage the federal and state funding, and it will leverage something that happened in the last year where the state provided access to their network that allows us to have these community broadband projects where previously we couldn't do that because we couldn't light up a library, or we couldn't light up a non-city facility on the city's network. So now we have the ability to use this fiber and separate the network, put Wi-Fi in a park, bring Wi-Fi to the Boys and Girls Club building in Westport, and do it safely without that same, without kids doing their homework or people using public Wi-Fi in the park. That won't be on the same network as that the city uses for its core functions and employees. So it's been a long time coming, but that partnership with the state allows for more of these public access programs. And that's it. I don't think there's and so in terms of timing, these legacy projects should be actually completed by February, March of 2021. There was a holdup around procurement questions with their contract that's now been worked through as the beginning of October. So those projects are rolling again, and at least that backlog of projects, cameras set to be installed in those 3 project areas, those will be done, I believe, really, within the first quarter of 2024, if not sooner. So I'm going to propose to go on to the next.
Yep.
That's okay. Okay.
All right. So the mayor's office of. Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here, a couple different things. We had been funding the MedStar Harbor Hospital Responder Program, piloted that, and it got picked up by MONSE, the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and they were able to find funding for that. So that's why you see in FY23, I actually have a refund from the prior year. There's an accidental overcharge. So that got refunded, but then they wanted to pivot to a school-based violence intervention program pilot, as you can read about it there. And I'm going to let them talk about it. We're being joined by Miss Stephanie Rodas. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Stephanie?
Yes, it is Stephanie Mavronis. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Perfect.
So thank you for the opportunity. It's been great hearing about some of the other work that's connected here. So my name's Stephanie Mavronis. As they stated, I'm the interim director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and I've been with the agency since January of 2022, where I previously served as chief of staff. The work that we're doing here around school-based violence intervention is a really central and core part of a few of the city's really driving strategies, both around the conversation that's happening increasingly so around youth violence prevention and intervention, and the ways that we can grow a community violence intervention ecosystem, making sure we're appropriately leveraging not just what's happening within our school communities, but also thinking about how we integrate the work of our agencies, because we know that we have to have so many different people around the table to do this work. Our agency has been working on securing funding and developing a program design for this. School-based violence intervention is something that would really put Baltimore in a leadership space. It's not something that has been done at this level. And so we're really approaching this as a pilot and had identified in partnership with the school system at least 3 initial schools that we wanted to start this work in, Merville, Carver, and Digital Harbor. And so as we think about this funding, we're really excited to think about the potential to really partner on a plan specifically geared around the geographic region and Digital Harbor in particular. Our agencies had some conversations already with members of the faith community, other community leaders, other organizations, the school community, and we need to have even more and more conversations in the weeks and months ahead about how we can partner and work together on this strategy. Part of that work will be the identification of at least one community-based organization that'll help provide these services, with the mayor's office providing a level of support and technical assistance, in addition to funding. And like all of our contracts and sort of standard language across the programming that we provide, being able to track performance and also really understanding the impact of the work is critically important. We're looking at opportunities to prevent and intervene in violence before it occurs. And given some of the recent incidents we saw, like outside of Carver, it's really important that we're thinking about our students and their experience, and we're also thinking about how we can provide that level of wraparound service to families and entire communities. We know our students come from all over to attend school, and it's important that people in the community also know our students at Digital Harbor. And so we've been really grateful to work with Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, the school system, and are actively kind of resetting conversations to make sure that we can roll out this program with a level of urgency that has impact. And so I'm happy to answer any questions here, but that's kind of part of where this vision fits into the overall kind of violence prevention and intervention work that MONSE does, and really open to any questions and thoughts and ideas here.
Stephanie, if you can, you did mention that Carver is one of your, I guess, pilot schools. And so I was wondering, through the lens of the recent event that occurred, with the shooting, what your thoughts are surrounding maybe the potential missed opportunity to sort of mediate in that sort of conflict. Do you think there's anything that this program could have done to sort of, help in that that conflict?
Thank you for the question. I would say, so just want to be really clear that the program, while we've been undertaking the work around program design, beginning some of the stakeholder engagement, navigating some transitions at the leadership level and all of that, the program's not stood up. And so we have a design, we've set the table, but we're really looking to fully launch the program. And what that looks like is making sure we have staff in the schools. I will say that what the incident at Carver, for my team and the way that we're approaching this, how that impacted us was, I think made everyone realize there were a few of us, even on the city government side, that were working in silos and had some connection to the school, but weren't necessarily working together in a strategic way. And I think we had to come together really quickly to think about what we could do to lift up some of the work already in the schools. So I know in Carver in particular, we've been having a few conversations with Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement, Dr. Brooks and the team at MOCFS. We've also been sitting down with Youth Ambassador Leadership Academy, which already has a lot of credibility in the Carver school community, in addition to Edmondson and a few other spaces and places. And we're actively thinking about how we can partner and build off of some of the strength we see in the school. And so I would say how this relates to the conversation around digital is what can we do to identify. We know for the digital community, we're going to need to have the right kind of credible messenger or messengers within the school community. It's been really important in our conversations with the school system that we recognize there's a few different dynamics in the school, including needing to have having credible messengers who can speak directly to like the Spanish-speaking population or the recent immigrant population that's also in the school. And so we want to be really intentional about what's actually happening and make sure that the way we build the design is not only in partnership with the community and the school system, but it's also helping everyone who's involved in this process know each other in our respective work together and follow along with the progress. And I think in some ways, it builds on some of the strengths that we've seen in things like the group violence reduction strategy, which, you know, is a citywide strategy. Right now, we're in the Western and Southwestern. We're seeing real reductions in homicides and non-fatal shootings. And we know that we have to be really intentional about how we can intervene and prevent incidents and make sure we're appropriately leveraging community level intelligence. So part of the model here is also making sure we have youth or peer ambassadors who are in the space, who are a part of this work and who are helping change, you know, the culture of the schools and norms around the acceptability of violence within those school communities. And so I don't know if that fully answers your question, but that's a few of the things that I'm thinking in response.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. When do you think, what are we thinking in terms of, again, sort of looking at this over a 2+ year period, when do you think we would be ready to, or how would this be rolling out at digital over the course of this school year and then I guess summer planning for next year?
Absolutely. So my commitment is to work with all of the partners that I've been mentioning throughout this presentation to make sure we have an immediate strategy right now. We know, like, especially in response to what we saw at Carver, we have to make sure we just have the appropriate channels of communication at the most basic level across our agency so that when there is something happening at one school or when we say like, hey, there might have been an incident at this school, but it involves students from these 2 other schools. We need to check on where these students are coming from and everyone around them. It's really about making sure we can be coordinated. So I do believe there's going to be things that we can stand up prior to the end of this school year. And I think that's really important just from a student support perspective. But I've been also really clear in my conversations with everyone that we should be thinking about how we can iterate and build on this. And especially looking at a full launch of the work, even if we find some ways to soft launch it now, let's really look ahead to summer planning, because part of it's going to have to be training, the right kind of professional development, and making sure that we have time to do, you know, what I'm just going to refer to as like true community engagement, and make sure people understand what this is. We don't want people to have misconceptions, and we also want people to know the team that they can go to if they have questions or are seeking accountability.
Great. Thanks. And I'm going to make a plug for Mr. Hooper, since he's still here, both to Mark Cerasi and Demo USA and MOCFS as you're thinking about creating positions and seeking, you know, to draw from the South Baltimore community. We can work with MOED and the South Baltimore Employment Connection Center to post those jobs, or, you know, try to find sort of some boutique matches for you for any program where having local knowledge within the communities would be a benefit.
That's amazing. Definitely want to take everyone up on that. And that gives me a couple other ideas too. So thank you for that.
Thanks. Mark, are you, is he?
Yeah, well,
on the edge of your seat?
I have
a
million
we
and
are
one
going to come back to you.
I have a million and one ideas about youth, and let me be more pat in my language, turning them on to certain trades and career patterns, whether it's scrap metal collecting and processing at a facility funded, a city funded location, whether it's environmental affairs, whether it's the waste management business, which never ends. We are, as a company, involved in demolition, city restoration, asbestos abatement, lead abatement, and demolition, of course, and environmental matters along those lines, waterway restoration. And when I think about these young men and women, and I think to get them to participate, literally participate at a grassroots level in these activities would afford them, hopefully it would garnish an interest to pursue environmental business, waste management, and the list goes on. I myself am a chemist and found my interest at an early age because it was introduced to me. And I think about the contribution that I would personally like to make and my employees in creating an environment where, as I said, these young men and women could be introduced to doing certain things, thinking of a career path. And as far as workers go, we're very open to being introduced to a platform, for the lack of a better word, where we can recruit workers to do the kinds of things that Jesse has us do, or that the Department of Public Works has us do. The Department of Public Works puts us to work right now in scrap tire removal. The amount of scrap tires throughout the nation, but in Baltimore in particular, is huge. Ethan has directed us, as well as Michael Lucas, to conduct a full remediation of scrap tire piles throughout the Middle Branch region. And that's good because there's nothing more problematic than water and tires and mosquitoes, and it looks pretty ugly, and that all makes a difference. So I get very enthusiastic. I personally enjoy teaching and seeing career advancement. So I am very available to the city to participate in these kinds of youth development programs.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Great. Yeah, we will. That is another thread that we're thinking about with around environmental career pathways. So we will follow up with you on that. And thank you, Stephanie, for talk about the youth anti-violence strategy in digital. So we're going to go now to actually an environmental program through the Department of Planning, or a couple, and then try to just sort of keep going. We'll come back to DPW and just try to keep the DPW and the water side work, but we're just going to try to keep going and wrap up by 8 o'clock. So Chris, you want to lead us through the next portfolio? If you can talk, if not, I can do it.
Yes, this should be fine. Right, so we've got, I just skipped me and Ethan's part because we got to keep moving along. We pay for me and Ethan. Anyway, so Department of Planning, sorry, there's a typo in here, has a number of projects that are funded in FY25. I am going to see, is that Kim Knox who's here as a guest?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I saw Kim, but we had a couple Kims on the invite. So I'm going to let Kim introduce herself and speak very briefly about Queen Core and Westport, even though there's lots of wonderful stuff to know about it.
Yes, I'm Kim Knox. I'm with the Baltimore Green Network. And the Baltimore Green Network is the home, which is located in the Department of Planning, is the home of the Clean Core program that's located in 16 neighborhoods, one of them being Westport. And the scope is that we is hiring under or underemployed Baltimore residents to clean and mow community selected vacant lots and clean community selected alleys, as well as trash cans. And so Westport is about to get an award tomorrow for the most amount of alleys cleaned in October. So congratulations to them, and we have been having a very successful program. Thank you so much.
Kim, I've been in Westport for over 50 years, and I've never seen the alleys so clean. It's a good sight to see. So thank you.
Thank you.
That is great, great news to hear. We also have the environmental education programming, which is a multi-year collaboration between the Department of Planning's Office of Sustainability. Abby unfortunately had to leave for pastures anew, but Director Ava Richardson's been keeping it moving, and I'd like to introduce from the National Aquarium, Ms. Swati, to talk a little bit about the great work that they are doing in our South Baltimore schools.
Hi, everyone. My name is Swati. I am a conservation project manager with the National Aquarium. And the National Aquarium has a partnership with Office of Sustainability to provide environmental education programming to schools that are in the South Baltimore Gateway area. So there are 10 schools in this area. And my role as part of that is I serve as a green school coordinator, where I work with each of the schools in the area to do various sustainability projects based on the interest and capacity of those schools. So the $100,000 here goes towards funds that go directly to the schools that they can use for their projects. 25,000 goes directly to the schools. And the remaining 75,000 is used towards staff time on my team, and also support various ways for the schools to engage. That could be field trips for students to local parks, to the aquarium, to other places where they can advance environmental education. It goes towards professional development for the teachers. So that could be the teachers going out to conferences and workshops, but it could also be bringing someone in, an expert that the teachers are interested in learning from. And what did I say? Professional development, field trips, sustainability projects, and also field days that we do where we bring together the green teams, which are the student clubs that lead the sustainability projects. We bring them together at a local park or a place of interest, and give an opportunity for the students to meet each other and do different recreational activities. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell what the program is. Are there any questions, or Ethan or Chris, anything else you think I should touch on?
Let's see, we got a question from James here.
Always a question from James.
And we appreciate you.
Sorry. I'm just wondering what schools does the program operate in?
Yes. So the schools are Arundel Elementary, Charles Carroll, Barrister Elementary, Cherry Hill Elementary Middle, Digital Harbor High School, Federal Hill Preparatory, George Washington Elementary, Lakeland Elementary Middle, Southwest Baltimore Charter Elementary Middle, Thomas Johnson Elementary Middle, and Westport Academy.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Could you just say how you work with the school, in that you're not working, are you working with the entire school? Are you making your services available, or is there a match with an individual teacher or club within the school?
Yeah, so each school has a sustainability point of contact, and that's usually where I start, and also with the administration, principal, assistant principal, or however the administration is set up to make sure there's buy-in for the sustainability projects, and then it matches the administration's goals. And those sustainability points of contact, it's usually a teacher or sometimes a guidance counselor, another staff member that's working with the students. And they usually are the leaders of the green teams, or, there's different names for them, but that's the student clubs that lead their sustainability work. So in the beginning of the school year, I meet with that sustainability point of contact. We talk about their interests and their priorities for the year, which could be ranging from, restarting recycling after COVID, or starting to compost in the cafeteria, or a school garden, vegetable garden, pollinator gardens. It's really up to their interests and up to their capacity. So it could be, some schools are doing a lot and are looking for support to keep that up, and other schools just want to start something really small just to get the ball rolling. And we really pride ourselves on meeting the schools where they're at, and just being a resource, not adding to the teachers' plates, but being there to support them.
Great. Thank you. I also want to say, the budget, but the budget's expanded this year from prior, in prior years, we only provided the support to the educator for the aquarium. And so we asked the aquarium, Swati and the team she's a part of, how they might deploy additional funding. So they generously suggested, well, if we had funding to work with, we would offer teacher, professional development opportunities for teacher, field trips. Transportation is key, even taking kids to Masonville Cove or the aquarium. There may be no cost for that, but the schools don't always have money for the transportation. So a lot of the costs building up to this $100,000 are really pass-through direct costs that add value and programming available to the teachers and the students. Thank you. We should probably move on, but thank you, Swati. But before we do, Ava Richardson, do you want to say hey or have anything to add on the sustainability work? And it's okay.
No, nothing to add. I think the position, we're just waiting to get that posted. So I think you covered everything. Thank you.
That's right. Oh, I guess that's on me. In the budget is $300,000 for, it's a bit of a placeholder or sort of a mini budget we're working on for implementing measures from the Reimagine Middle Branch Plan, which was worked on over 2020 through 2022, and the plan was adopted beginning of 2023. So we want to continue to have money available for sort of targeted technical and feasibility studies that come out of that. And as Ava Richardson, the Director of Office of Sustainability referenced, we're launching a position for Reimagine Middle Branch environmental planner within the Office of Sustainability, who will be able to be kind of the city's point and resource person for implementation of projects that have a lot of interagency coordination around the wetland projects and shoreline capital projects that we've seen, and some of the longer term initiatives, getting them literally into the ground and implementing the plan. And that covers these budget lines with the Department of Planning. I believe Parks and Police are not still with us, so we thought we would go ahead to DOT and BDC. Does that work for you, Chris? That would be the Warner Street project. Right now we're on, yeah, could we go to skip ahead for Linda, who's here to talk about Warner Street? Uh-oh.
I'm not seeing any change in the slide.
Yeah.
Okay, not just me, huh?
All right, sorry about that. I was fielding a call from BPD, who may or may not be here later. So,
okay.
Oops, here we go. There you go, Linda.
Yeah. So I'll just tee this off. We've talked about it before. This is the for funding for the Warner Stockholm Street rebuilding project. It's really much more than a streetscape. It's a complete rebuilding of the infrastructure there, and then an enhanced streetscape environment tied to the entertainment district, and then around north of Horseshoe Casino, tying it to the stadium, and then along Stockholm Street, tying it back to Sharp Street and the Gwynns Falls Trail. So this is the third of the original commitment of $7.5 million in casino funding over the past 3 years. It is matched by $5 million in state capital grants. The project includes Linda Locascio is the project manager for Horseshoe and Partners, but as it says here, it's extensive underground subgrade work, and the project has been engineered and put out to bid, and it's actually happening. So we plan to start. They plan to start construction in the beginning by January. It's an 18-month construction period ending in summer of 2025. Linda, would you like to introduce yourself now that I took all your material?
Yeah, that was great. Could not have said it better. Yeah, I'm Linda Locascio, working on behalf of the project team. Normally, Kim Clark would make this presentation, as BDC has been the development partner on this, but she's out of the country, so I'm subbing, and happy to answer any questions. I would just add that fundamentally, this project supports our vision of creating an entertainment district. And the purpose of that is not only to continue to grow the tax base of the city, but we're hoping to reinvent that whole southern gateway so that, it directly benefits the casino and the activities around that. But as we've demonstrated with Topgolf, we were able to attract, a national entertainment use who selected, this location in Baltimore as their only Baltimore location. So we feel that we can continue to grow the activity on that street and fundamentally add more jobs and dramatically increase the tax base of that whole area, which hopefully circles back around, resulting in greater revenues for all of the efforts that we've heard about tonight with this group. And happy to answer any questions.
Let me just ask you, because often there's an area sort of in the back of the garage. It's green space, I guess. Does this include any plans to sort of spruce that up, that particular area? It's a great area. It's just,
Well, there was a great bit of sprucing that was done as part of the Topgolf project. They were required to invest in that area and to do remediation and improvements. That work is done. The only additional improvement that this project would add is the creation of a multi-use bike path, which, will greatly enhance the little bike path that's there now. So that's the only part of that area that would be further improved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So James, I don't know when you were last there. That went through about a two-year environmental cleanup, brownfield cleanup, capping. It looked a little weird because there were trees and shrubs and birds there before, and then they were ironically they were removed to do the environmental cleanup, trap the fill, and then all replanted as a natural restoration area with the trail, including shoreline, kind of a removal of invasive species along the shoreline. It looks like a new living shoreline. So that wasn't part of this project per se, but it was part of the top requirements and mitigation of the, if I'm saying it right, of the Topgolf development. So ultimately part of the overall vision.
Yeah, believe it or not, it was over a $2 million investment to do the scope of work that Ethan just described.
Wow.
So maybe we can arrange a tour of that now that it's reopened and the bike path is reconnected.
Yeah, get your bike. Yeah, do it on the bike.
Yeah.
And that work includes, for Reimagine Middle Branch, that included a really innovative use of dredge material, clean, mixed with clean fill, sponsored by the Port Administration. And so that's that work right there on that Ridgely's Cove piece of property is a model for what we hope to do more of in the Reimagine Middle Branch work, restoring the ecology and health of other green spaces around the shoreline.
Now, we could just get rid of that incinerator, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Long-term plans. Yep. Thanks. Great. Well, thank you, Linda. Thank you for sticking around.
Sure.
I don't know if there are any other questions on that project. We are getting near the end of the list. We can go up for James, and for the recording, we can go up through police and parks now, and that will take us to the end, and then we'll wrap up.
So I just spoke with the chief of staff of the police department, and unfortunately, the Major Bennett did not notice that the meeting had gotten changed to virtual only. So he went to the Middle Branch Fitness and Wellness Center with a bunch of materials and
Wow.
was all excited and got there and they said, "Oh no, it got canceled." And so he is out with his family now and not able to join. So that's unfortunate. But he assured us that any and all questions that anyone has, please pose them either tonight or through our our normal feedback process for LDC members, and they will absolutely answer all questions that are posed. So that's what happened with BP.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out to him, Chris, and setting that up. I'll just say this has been as James knows, a long debate over many years about how much fun of the portion of the CLIF budget was going to the sub-district in FY23. Planning for FY23 back in 21-22, for various reasons, we sort of reached a compromise with the police department where we would actually reduce the budget for reducing the budget for this operation for now, given staffing shortages in the police department citywide, actually benefited everyone. It took up less of the community impact funding, and it also tied up less of, staff time for BPD officers that maybe could be doing more mission critical work. So the budget the last 2 years has been sort of capped at $1 million. The reason it was less than 23 was because there was an overcharge in 22, which Chris, through his forensic accounting skills, was able to track down and got us rebated. So that was, $1 million, actually $1 million in 23. We just overpaid the prior year. What that means is this operation no longer pays for staffing that district, which is really no more than a post. The post is no longer staffed 24/7. It's staffed at peak hours, but there's greater coordination with the Southern District on what happens, on what resources the Horseshoe has available when it's not peak. And there was a really beloved detective, I guess, in that district, in that sub-district. That officer is now at the Southern, where there's more to work on. He, of course, is available if there are detective issues that come up, investigations needed related to the casino. So it's really more integrated now. Still, it's significant expenditure, but it was approaching, with cost of living adjustments for staffing at 24/7, it was approaching $2 million 2 years ago. So we were maybe able to come up with this compromise. Now, with the expansion of the entertainment district and more users, we may have to revisit that and see if there's need for more coverage on the ground as there are more venues, but this seems to be working for now. So if no questions, we can move to parks. And this is exciting news too. So this and the Warner Street project are in the capital budget portion of the CLIF budget. So these are bigger, when we say capital, we mean brick and mortar projects in the city. The city runs 2 budgets every year. There's an operating budget, which is supposed to be funds that are, even though we don't always manage to spend our money in the same year, funds that are operational and sort of budgeted and expected to be spent in a given year. And then the capital budget would be long-term costs that may take multiple years to fund and build a project. But the idea is that that's a capital expense, like you're putting a new roof on your house, that has a value. It's backed up by city bonds in some cases. That is a value that lasts 30 or 50 years rather than sort of an ongoing expense. So we have 2, other than Warner Street, we have 2 capital projects in the pipeline in the current spending year and next year. And those are not the full budgets for these projects, but both Sola Gibbs Park and Florence Cummins Park through matching through using CLIF funds to match other funds available from the Parks Department and the state and South Baltimore Gateway Partnership. We hope to get both these parks through full engineering design documents this year and out to bid and starting construction next summer or fall. And that's very exciting. So they're sort of on the same timeline. And the goal is that Florence, both are phased a little bit, but we really want to get through major phases in this round, not do it piecemeal over a generation, but really, I think Florence Cummins Park, the total budget is about $8.5 million. That will cover all the phases is the goal. Solo Gibbs is sort of in two phases because there's expectation, if the funding is available, that there'd be a second phase for a small rec center there. But the park itself, with a budget of about $7-8 million, would be fully funded and executed by 2025. I've been here too long. Yeah. So for our 10-year anniversary of the South Baltimore Gateway Master Plan, we can have ribbon cuttings at these two parks.
That'll be fantastic.
Yeah. So, and this, Chris put the schedule in here that we showed at the last meeting. This is kind of mapping out what those longer term capital project commitments look like. And I believe that is it on the projects. I thank the agency's reps who stayed with us. I also want to acknowledge Serena Waters, a representative from Berry Circle, who joined us partway through. Welcome. I don't know if you have any thoughts or questions. And then I think what Chris has on the screen is really just the timeline and the steps for the rest of the budgeting process through for this fall. You want to recap that?
Yeah, so basically between now and December 10th, we're going to be collecting additional feedback and questions from the local development council members and passing them along to you all in the respective agencies. And then we will take that in and see if there's any changes that need to be made or can be made to the budget. And then present the final proposed budget to the LDC on December 12th for them to vote on, to whether they want to, I'm trying to remember the correct terminology, endorse the budget for that year. And that wraps up our yearly budgeting process, and then we'll be having conversations in the new year with the chair and vice chair about additional engagement opportunities for the LDC and the community to learn more about what we're doing and get more community input on the types of projects that we should be funding, the types of priorities we should focus on, and just continue to try to make this budget reflect the needs of the community as much as possible. And that is all the news that's fit to print. If you all don't already have it, here's our contact information. Now I see Director Ryer joined us at some point in time. Director Ryer, do you have anything you'd like to add for the good of the conversation?
Yeah, I want to thank all you guys for your input tonight. This funding comes originally from the state, but it goes into the city budget. And your recommendations to the mayor are incredibly valuable. And so we hope to act on as many of them as we can, because they become a supplement to the city budget. These represent extra services that the citizens of this area receive because of the Casino Local Impact Fund. So I just want to thank all of you I know there are probably several Chris's on this call. I especially want to thank Chris and Ethan for moderating this. And I really want to thank all of you for your input into this budgeting process. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us and that message.
All right, are there any other questions, thoughts, concerns, announcements?
To say, speaking of budgeting, we someone else who stuck with us is John Berklew, our budget analyst from the Bureau of Budget Management and Resources. I don't know if I got that right, but he's been a great resource and ally to Chris and me in navigating the changeover in the city's whole budgeting accounting system, and really looking out for this program.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Well, with that, it is 8 o'clock exactly. I really want to thank all of you, particularly city reps and our contractors and grantees for sticking with us this evening. And I think this, we're recording this. I think it'll be something that LDC members and we will refer back to. And again, really appreciate the time preparing for this and sharing updates on your projects this evening. So thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you all so much, and I appreciate you working with my voice here. Have a good one.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Feel better.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.